Well, thanks so much for joining me for the first of Open Mic Mondays. And today I'm going to be answering some questions that were brought to me, and I'm going to be bringing a concept called communication is community. So, hi everybody who's listening and watching. Thank you for swinging by. I'm so glad you're here. Okay, so I've got some good questions here. So thanks to everybody that tuned into that. So a question I've got is, and by the way, this video is going to go on my blog when it goes live on the 23rd, so a week today. Oh my gosh, the site goes live. So it's going to be here for everyone to see, and at some point it'll be converted into a podcast or an audio something. So if you have missed this beginning bit, you're fine. Right, so one of the questions I got is, when is enough prep enough? When is enough prep enough? Well, this is what I would say, that the best talks or presentations or whatever you're communicating are best served medium rare. Medium rare. Talks that are done well done are tough, meaty, hard to chew, hard to swallow. And some other talks are too rare. It just feels like it's not been cooked long enough. People are tasting it. It's like, oh, it's cold. It's not hot enough. So I think the best talks are those ones that are medium rare, cooked, hot. People can see it's been well prepared, but is a little bit bloody in the middle. Is a little bit raw in the middle. There's still some of the oomph in the. So I think when is enough prep enough? In my eyes, it's whatever you define as medium rare, and that's how I try and do every single one of my talks and my training sessions. I try and prepare enough so it's cooked enough, so it's hot, but leave that center a little bit emotional, a little bit raw, a little bit, come on God, what is it that you want to bring out despite all the structure that I've put in place? Second question is tips for not letting fear or anxiety get the better of you. Two things to stop fear and anxiety getting the better of you, whether you're doing a talk, a Zoom, whatever. Number one is prayer. You might not be a believer, but if you're not, fair enough. But when you're in a crisis, why do you always pray? Because sometimes there's nowhere else to go. Even if you're stuck at a red light and you're like, come on, baby Jesus, turn it to green now. So prayer really helps me. It puts me in a position of submitting myself. Like, God, I'm under your authority. You're the hand that guides me here. It's not in my own. So prayer really settles me. And that might work for you in terms of meditation, or well, it could be right on that moment before you get on that call or get on that stage. And the other thing I'd say about fear and anxiety is know your why. So in a week's time, I've got this free 14-week series that people can just access called 60-second speakers, like become a better speaker in 60 seconds or less. It's like an episode delivered to you every week kind of thing. And in that, I talk about this idea of your confidence doesn't come from your competence, but it comes from your conviction. That's where real confidence comes from. Like, I'm not very confident as a person, which surprises a lot of people. I'm actually quite introverted, but I come across as confident because I believe what I'm doing is the right thing. And if I'm serving, if I'm helping people, then that breeds confidence in me, and that fights against the anxiety and fear that we all kind of face. The third question was top tips for getting your point across. Top tips for getting your point across. Well, this is a model that I wanted to show you, and Han has helpfully helped me out with this. But this is called petal points. Don't know if you can see that or not. Petal points. And the reason why it's called petal points is because the actual structure of the message looks like a flower. So everything you do, everything in your talk should be centered on one thing. You should be able to sum up that message in 1 point or less. In fact, if you ever hear me talk, you'll notice that all I ever do is put the title, and that's the main point. I want people to instantly understand and grasp what I'm trying to tell them. Because the truth of this, statistically, people are only going to remember one thing from your message, if that. The week after I do a talk, someone will say, hey, that was a great talk. Thanks so much for that. And I'll say, oh, what did you like about it? And they go, well, I just remember how it made me feel. It was just good. Always about that thing, wasn't it? And it's because we're just wired to remember one thing, take one thing away. So my suggestion would be your title should be your one point that you want people to take away. And then these black circles here represent, say, like a point or an illustration, a story, a quote, analogy, whatever it is. And what they should do is every single point and illustration shouldn't take you away from your title, your point. It should lead you back in. It's like a petal, it goes round. And I learned that from Erwin McManus, who's a speaker and author and it leads a church in LA called Mosaic. And the structure of his message, the composition of his message is this one point, and he just gathers things around that point and reinforces it. So it's like, whoa, okay, this guy's telling the truth. And that's how I restructured my talk. So I don't lead people on a narrative structure. One day I'll do some teaching on this, but I'm not a narrative structure kind of guy. I'm a one point, and let me build on that point, reinforce that point. So how do you get your point across more clearly? Focus on one thing in your talk, make that one thing your title, and use the petal points to be able to reinforce that every time. Hopefully that's helpful to the person that asked it and helpful for those who are listening. Okay, last question before I bring my bit of coaching to you today, and then you can enjoy the rest of your night. We've just got Amazon Prime. And we're enjoying a free month, so there's some good stuff I want to get to after this Insta Live. You know what I mean. In fact, if you want to put it on the chat feed, what are you watching on Netflix at the minute? What are you watching on Amazon Prime? I definitely want to know that. Because it's winter season, so you just kind of like, you just want to stay in, drink brews, have snacks. Do you know what I mean? So anyway. Okay, so the last question was, what are some personal barriers that I've overcome? Well, so many, but I'll tell you one thing. I had to really overcome enjoying the limelight. So my desire to communicate doesn't come from a place of like, oh, I just love to watch myself on screen. I'm actually very insecure. I don't want to be in the limelight. I'm not trying to be someone I'm not. It comes from a place of, I feel like Andy Stanley calls it this, who leads a church called North Point. He calls his question is, what's your highest point of contribution? Like in this one life, what's your highest point of contribution? And for me, communication is that. That's why I'm doing this thing right now. And so a biggest thing I've had to overcome is this insecurity, this, what do they call it? It's like imposter syndrome. It's like, I'm just an imposter. I'm not really, no one's going to listen to me. No one's going to care. And to an extent, not everybody does. I'm a nobody. But I take joy in the practice now because I'm not trying to be someone I'm not. And so wrestling with this desire to be upfront, with understanding this is the way I serve people, that's been a huge learning curve for me. And I'll talk about that in the weeks to come. And one of the ways I realised that this was the deal for me was that leaders and speakers pay a higher cost than anyone else. Like, they have to live what they bring. They face criticism. And although it's like, oh, woe is me, nurses have it worse, social workers have, oh my gosh, they're heroes. But people who want to use their voice often do get criticised and often have to pay a price. And I welcome that price. I'm like, hey, I'm here to sacrifice and to serve. I know it's not all roses, but still, even when I don't feel like it, I'm going to get up, I'm going to encourage. Even when stuff's going wrong, I'm going to get up and speak to someone's future. And in that, it kind of brings me back to this idea that I'm here to serve. I'm not here to gain or to get. Thanks for your questions. Please keep sending them in because I want to start every Open Mic Monday with your questions. I don't really want you to tune into me and listen to me talk. I actually want to serve and help. And I'm not a mind reader. So tell me if there is anything you want me to answer for you. Okay. Communication is community. 10 minutes and then we're done. So I want to talk about a penguin. It's not just any ordinary penguin. It's a penguin in Sydney, Australia. I went to see a presentation of someone talking about penguins. And I went to see it in Sydney, Australia. And it was just amazing. So, penguins. Went to see my brother who was living in Sydney at the time. This was a long time ago. I can't remember how long ago, maybe 12 years. Probably longer, actually. And he said, I know. What does my family want to do when they come and visit me in Australia? I'm going to book tickets to see a lecture of someone who was like an activist and a photographer of penguins. So we went, and this is well before COVID. Anyway, it was fascinating. The pictures were amazing, just unbelievable pictures. The facts were like, wow, I did not know that about a penguin. I thought it was just a biscuit. Maybe it's a real animal. But it was so boring. Oh my gosh, it was so boring. And it wasn't because the subject wasn't fascinating to me. It was because the delivery wasn't that great. And this is what I walked away feeling like. There was no sense of community around what this lecturer was talking about. There was no sense of like unity, togetherness. It was just, this guy is just literally reeling over a lot of facts and there's no charisma, there's no bond to it. And this is when it got me thinking about communication is community. And often what we do is when we're leading a meeting, when we're bringing a presentation, when we're doing a talk, we try and load it. Paul Scanlon calls it a data dump. Like we're just dumping data, facts. And that doesn't really endear people to our cause. It doesn't really bond people together. A huge amount of energy as a speaker, a communicator, a teacher, or whatever, of your time should go into how do I create a sense of togetherness, mission, unity? How do I galvanize these people around what I'm trying to bring? A huge amount of energy should go into that. Because your content is going to take care of itself. You're going to build up your repertoire. You're going to build up what you need to do. But if it's not centered, if it's not communicated through the lens of, hey, come on, guys, there's an issue here and we can fix this together, you're not going to see the movement or momentum on the other side. Penguins. I was actually looking for a penguin in the house so I could show it to you, but I'm sure we have a penguin. I'm sure the kids have got a penguin or a puffin. That's nearly a thing. But I couldn't find one. Okay, so the origin of the word communication shares the same root as community, and it's from the Latin word communitas, from like it was written first sort of in England or in Britain at that time in the 1300s, and it's this word communitas. And the communitas literally means common, which makes sense, right? Communication and community, well, they all start with common, and it's communitas, it's common. And there's other words to it. So they're from the same family tree as communicate, community, communion, commodity, commune. And they all are rooted on this idea of commonality. A common people living in a common space, doing a common thing together. So this word communitas, this word common, helps us understand how we create community when we communicate. So how do you create community through this word common? 3 things, okay? Number 1, a common goal. Number 2, a common grumble. Number 3, a common good. Those are 3 ways. That is the structure. That is the journey you can take someone on in order for them to feel accountable, together, unified, like there's other people who care about you or you care about, and drive it forward. So let me just comment quickly on each one. So how do we create community? Number 1, a common goal, a vision that everyone shares, a vision of the future that everyone can agree on. You know what? Penguins are great. Everyone believes that penguins should have a real shot at this life. Maybe a penguin could be the next prime minister. Maybe they do a better job at times. We all want penguins to live, don't we? Yeah. There wasn't that, by the way. But you might be sure about a future, a deeper truth. But you're trying to create a picture that scoops everyone in. You're trying to create a common goal, something that everyone can agree on, everyone wants to move forward to. And as soon as you've painted that picture of a common goal, you then need to structure it so you go into a common grumble. What is a complaint? What is the problem? What is the issue? Now, depending on what you're talking about, it's either a grumble or it's grief. It's either, come on, we can sort this out, or, oh, there's a deeper pain here that we need to work through. Now, two people I want you to look at this week ahead of our next time together. I want you to compare the difference between Obama and Trump. I want you to just listen to some clips online, maybe a 3-4 minute clip at a time, and you'll notice this structure in place. You'll notice this. There's a common goal, there's a common grumble, a grief, and then on the back of that, there's a common good, which I'll come to that. But the very, very, very different styles, They both create a sense of community, a sense of commonhood about what they're saying. Trump breeds a lot of divisiveness. He brings a lot of defining lines, and he paints himself as the one who can fix it all. I really don't care what your politics are. Just study what he does and what he says, and you'll see that that's correct. Obama has got a different way. Instead of centering on him as the one who provides the answer, he pushes it onto the people and says, it's now time for us to do the common good. So he lays out a picture. In fact, I saw it on Instagram the other day, just today, and yesterday too. Obama was talking about, we are a very divided people. That's what the mini clip was about on Instagram. And what he was saying is, we all believe in the idea of the United States of America. We all believe in the Constitution. This should be the land of the free, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. But we're really divided right now. There's a lot of things going on, and it's not helping us, all this hate. And then what he does, he transitions and he says, it takes each and every one of us to take responsibility here, to let down our arms, to embrace one another again and move on. Fantastic communicator, by the way, Obama. And I wish there were more communicators like that in our kind of political realms. You need a common goal, identify the common grumble or grief, the objective, and you're not directing it at people. It's really important that you're not saying, hey, everyone wants cleaner streets and you're the problem. You know, it never works like that. What it needs to be is, it needs to be objective. You need to gather everyone around and say, hey, come on guys, let's gather around together. Come on, we all have this common goal, right? Well, let me put something on the table. Here's the issue. Here's the problem. Let's all look at this together, right? Because it's all our responsibility. What can we do to sort this out? You remove this idea of, hey, this is your fault. This is your fault. And what you're doing is you're saying, there is an issue we all share, and we all have this vision for a better future. Here's what we can do about it. So look, we all love animals. Penguins are amazing. We all want to see a penguin. We all want to see David Attenborough cuddle a penguin. But climate change is happening, and it's changing their environment so fast that they can't keep pace and they're dying. That's the grumble. That's the grief. So what are we going to do about it? Recycle. Take responsibility. Buy an electric car. Give to this charity. There is a common good that we all need to share in the effort to change it. The common good is the action each of us needs to take individually, not collectively. You are painting a picture of the future. You are saying, here's the issue, and then you're attaching an action to it. Sacrifice is necessary and is valued. Man, if you can express your affection for people in your talk, in your presentation, and explain to them, look, every time you sacrifice, thank you. Thank you for changing. Thank you for moving forward. That creates a sense of ownership, like, hey, wow, my sacrifice is valued and it's seen, so I'm going to take part in that. So how do we create community in your communication? Well, we focus down on what is common to each of us. The common goal, the common grumble, and then the common good. And you'll create unity around the problem because people don't feel like it's directed at them, but they can do something about it. The last thing I wanted to say before we jump off, because it's been 20 minutes, thanks so much for joining me, is this word accountability, a phenomenally sexy word called accountability. Accountability is basically, I owe it to this group to do something about what I've learned today. That is accountability. If you can leave individuals feeling like they owe it to the common good, to the community that they've now been established in through this message or this presentation, if they leave feeling like, wow, I owe it to them to change, boy, that's powerful, man. You've nailed it. Whether you're a teacher in a classroom, whether you're someone on a stage, whether you're a trainer on a staff team, if you can leave someone with the feeling and the drive to change, not control, not reports, not check-ins, not any of that, simply I desire to share in the mission because I owe it to other people. That's community right there. The common goal, the common grumble, the common good. That is how you create community through your communication. I'm done. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the first ever Open Mic Mondays. I'm excited for the website to go live 1 week today. Man, I can't believe I've been working on this side business since July. So it's been a while. So I'm excited, just finalizing everything this week. And so I'll bring it to you. There's free goodies on there and all sorts, so you'll enjoy it. And two shameless plugs. Number one, I've got a first ebook coming out in about 4 weeks, I think, 3 or 4 weeks, I can't remember. So I'll be launching that, and you'll hear more about that in 2 weeks' time. And I'll be doing free workshops on here. And I've got my first course that is going to be happening towards the end of the year. So it's all happening, it's good. I just want to help leaders become powerful communicators. So thanks for joining me. I hope that really helped you and served you well. Keep the questions pouring in because I really want to help and serve you guys. So thanks again for listening, for taking part. I'm so glad you're here, and I'll see you again real soon.